All right, let's dive right into one of the most epic stories ever told, the Great Flood, straight from the source text, Genesis chapter 7. We're going to walk through this chapter by following its own structure, looking at its headings and the key phrases it emphasizes to really see how this world-changing event unfolds from beginning to end. Everything, and I mean everything, in this story hangs on this one single line. It's a promise, but it's also a terrifying threat. This declaration, 40 days and 40 nights of rain, is what kicks the whole thing off. It sets the massive, unbelievable scale of what's coming. But before even a single drop of rain falls, there's a command. The first part of the chapter is all about the very specific instructions given to Noah. It's basically the final boarding call. Gather everyone, everything, and get into the ark now. And let me tell you, this command is incredibly specific. It's not just, hey, get some animals. The text makes this really sharp distinction. The clean animals and birds are brought on by sevens, the unclean animals just by 2. And the text even tells us why: to keep seed alive upon the face of all the earth. This wasn't chaos. It was a carefully organized plan for restarting the world. Now, this wasn't some kind of get-to-it-when-you-can assignment. Nope. The very next heading in the text gives a strict deadline. It immediately injects this huge sense of urgency. The final countdown has officially begun. The number is 7. Just 1 week. Can you imagine? After all those years, decades even, of building this massive ark, the final call comes with this super tight 7-day window. Just think about the focus, the frantic energy of those last few days. You know what's interesting? The text grounds this global disaster in a really personal moment. This quote connects this huge event to a specific point in Noah's life. And his age? A mind-boggling 600 years old. It just gives the whole story this epic, almost larger-than-life quality. It really highlights how serious this moment was. And this part is absolutely crucial. The text goes out of its way to emphasize Noah's perfect obedience. Before the storm even starts, it makes it clear Noah did exactly what he was told. He, his family, every single animal, they all got on that ark precisely as instructed. Their survival literally depended on following those orders. And with that, everything changes. The whole tone of the chapter just flips. This next section header tells us the prep time is over, the waiting is done, the flood is here. Wow, this line is so short, but it's incredibly powerful. Did you notice? Noah doesn't shut the door himself. The text makes a point to say that sealing the ark was a divine act. It creates this final, irreversible separation between the world that was safe inside and the world that was about to be washed away. The story then describes this terrifying progression. It's not like an instant disaster, but this steady, relentless process. First, the rain starts. Then the waters rise high enough to lift the ark off the ground. Pretty soon, the text says the waters prevail. It uses that word over and over, until finally, even the tallest mountains are completely gone, swallowed by the water. And how long did it rain? You guessed it, 40 days and 40 nights. This brings us right back to that initial declaration. The storm lasts for the exact amount of time that was foretold, just a relentless, non-stop downpour. So this brings us to the story's grim climax, and the source text signals it with this very blunt header. After describing the cause, all that rising water, the narrative now pivots to the absolutely devastating effect. This summary here is just so stark and absolute. This line leaves zero room for interpretation. The text is just plain telling us the consequence. Everything that lived on the earth that wasn't on the ark died. And to really hammer home just how total this was, the text gives us a list, like an inventory of destruction. It goes through the categories of life, one by one: birds, cattle, wild animals, all the little creeping things, and finally, every human. It's a methodical way of showing that nothing and no one escaped. And just in case you missed the point, the text basically says it again, but in a slightly different way. Every living substance was destroyed. The language is probably repetitive on purpose, to make sure we understand the absolute finality of what happened. But then, right after all that devastation, the story pivots to the stunning contrast. After describing total destruction, it focuses on the single point of survival. In a world that's been completely undone, only Noah and those with him in the ark were left. It's such a quiet but profound statement. Finally, the chapter ends with one last, really important number, 150. Now, this isn't how long the rain lasted. This is the total number of days that the waters prevailed upon the earth. So for 5 whole months, the world was just submerged before the water even started to go down. And that's exactly where the chapter leaves us. The Ark is adrift on a drowned planet, and its passengers are the only living things left. The rain is over, but the world is still covered in water. So it forces us to ask the one burning question: what on earth happens next?